Hey everyone, welcome back to Infinite Podcast, where today we're digging into the secret world of spies, something straight out of a James Bond flick, but way older. I mean, imagine George Washington waiting impatiently for a letter with invisible ink. That's child's play compared to today's cyber snooping, right? Simon, what's your take on these cloak and dagger games from the past?
Modern digital snooping? It's like comparing a space shuttle to a horse cart, Joe. But those old school spies with their invisible ink were true artists. Now it's all ones and zeros. Where's the romance in that?
Romance? Hardly. There's an elegance to simplicity, Simon. A swipe on a screen won't ever match the suspense of that hidden message appearing over a candle. It's not just romantic, it's crafty. Digital is cold, old school's bold.
Crafty? Maybe. But think about it. Digital espionage can infiltrate anywhere in the world without leaving your couch. That's terrifyingly efficient. Plus, Joe, a cyber hack can spread like wildfire, way faster than some old school secret letter.
Definitely terrifying, Simon. A single click can cause chaos across continents. That sheer speed and reach is something the old spies couldn't even dream of. You drop typos like breadcrumbs, but in digital espionage, one typo could be the end game.
No way, it's not just a typo, it's digital kryptonite. Old school spies had to mind their quills. We have to mind our QWERTY. Miss one key, and boom, you're downloading a virus instead of cat videos. We've all done it.
True that hitting reply all by accident is just today's version of spilling your ink pot. But with old spy techniques, it was more than just writing, it was physical. Sneaking through corridors, the brush pass, dead drops, a whole ballet of danger. Now you mess up digitally? Less ballet, more oops, and your screen freezes. Not as poetic, but every bit as risky.
Oh, reminds me of this one time, Joe. I was at the grocery store, right? Thought I was smooth, doing a bit of my own espionage to surprise my sister with her favorite cake for her birthday. So there I am, sneaking around aisles, ducking behind displays. Guess what happened? Bumped right into her coming round the corner. My cover blown, just like that. Life's full of those little spy games, huh? Just goes to show whether it's dead drops or dodging loved ones in the bakery section, you gotta stay sharp.
Ha! The grocery store caper, the classic covert op failure. Next time, maybe wear a disguise, huh? Or at least sync your shopping missions better.
Disguise? Maybe not, Joe. Sync up? Nah, makes it too easy. There's something thrilling about making a narrow escape or getting caught in the act. It's part of the fun, like spies back in the day. They took risks knowing things could go sideways. If they played it safe, they'd never get the intel. So really, maybe we should embrace the chaos. It could lead to a better story.
Embrace chaos? Maybe in the grocery aisle, but not in real espionage. One slip and it's game over. No story to tell. But you have a point about risk. It's the spice, right? The agents of yesteryears lived on that edge, decoding messages under threat of discovery. No Control-Z undo button for them. Even so, maybe the real trick is balancing chaos with control. That's when you craft a legend or an epic party disaster.
Oh, this takes me back, Joe. There was this one time my friends and I decided to have a surprise birthday bash for another buddy. Now, we wanted it to be epic, like a night he'd never forget. The plan involved a lot of sneaking around. I'm talking about secret group chats, the modern-day spy cipher, right? And we were passing info like we're in some sort of MI6 operation. Location details were handed off in code, timing had to be perfect. Felt like orchestrating a covert mission where any little mishap would blow our cover. Night of the party, I'm there rigging up some lights when who walks in early? Yeah, the birthday boy himself. Nearly gave me a heart attack. But did we panic? Nope, we improvised, made him think he'd ruined another friend's surprise anniversary dinner. The guy bought it, left, and came back later genuinely astounded. Seeing his face, man, it was right out of those ancient spy epics. We may not have cloaks and daggers, but we've still got that spark, the thrill of the covert op.
That's a classic move. So how did you guys manage to get him back out without arousing suspicion? Playing on the buddy's anniversary was quick thinking, but were there any close calls before he returned for the real surprise?
Yeah, super close call. I casually suggested he forgot to buy a gift and offered to go shopping with him. bought us the time we needed, and kept him clueless. Mission accomplished.
Smart save. But let's drop the clandestine birthday ops and circle back to the real deal historic espionage. I mean, grab a newspaper in the 40s, sit on a park bench, codes ticking through your mind as enemy agents lurk around. There's just something about those old techniques that gets you, right? Plus, no one suspects the newspaper guy. A flash drive today? Shady. Newsprint crossword? Innocent. I bet even our tech-savvy world could learn a thing or two from the simplicity of the past.
Absolutely, Joe. That 40s newspaper spy had style. It was pure street smarts mixed with cunning. No batteries required and no fear of a dead phone. Plus, cracking codes by hand? That's mental gymnastics. Today's tech can do the heavy lifting, but back then, your brain was the supercomputer. And that's something. Maybe if we merged a bit of that old school craft with today's tools, we'd have, I don't know, Super Spies 2.0?
There's a story, Simon, that I think nails this. My grandfather, sharp as a tack, World War II vet, he'd talk about his days decoding messages. It wasn't Hollywood stuff. It was raw and real. He'd spend painstaking hours with pencil and paper translating coded letters they'd intercepted. One time he told me about cracking this code that helped intercept a supply drop meant for the enemies. The clincher? The message was hidden in plain sight on a seemingly boring logistics report. By combining intuition, the craft of old-school spy work, with a hint of technology from that era like the Enigma machine, they shaped the outcome of key operations. In our digital age, imagine weaving in some grandpa-style brain power with today's tech. Maybe we're overdue for that Super Spies 2.0 idea, blending best of both worlds.
You know what, Joe? Your grandpa's story, it really hits home the essence of timeless espionage techniques. Distilling complex information from something as dull as a logistics report, that's raw talent. It's about seeing beyond the obvious, using your noggin to peel back layers and reveal secrets meant to be kept in the dark. Draw on that kind of thinking, marry it with today's tech. We're not just talking spies anymore, we're crafting artists. The art isn't dead, it's evolved. Modern-day codebreakers could stand to take a leaf out of your grandpa's book, mix it up with our algorithms, and bam, you've got artistry in intelligence work.
Totally agree. The art of espionage isn't about the tools. It's that human touch, strategy, actually using your head. It's timeless. Doesn't matter if you're talking 40s or 2040s.
You know, Joe, I've got to push back a bit here. Using your head is priceless, yeah, but let's not get too misty-eyed over the past. Historic spy techniques had their swagger for sure, but were they practical today? Picture trying to dead drop in a digital world where everything's tracked. You'd be caught before you could even say cloak and dagger. So while that human touch is key, we've got to evolve. More ninja, less knight. It keeps the art alive, but paints it with a new brush. Imagine old-school spies with drones and cyber ops. That's a picture worth seeing.
Just last month, I read this wild story about a modern-day art heist. Felt like an old spy fiasco with a tech twist. These thieves, they bypassed advanced security systems using gadgets straight out of a Bond movie. Infrared sensors, drones for surveillance, and hacking into the network. They got in and out without a wire tripped. But here's where history comes in. They still used lookouts on the streets, classic distraction techniques, and time-honored sleight of hand to swap paintings. It showcased that even though we've got all this tech at our fingertips, executing a plan with style and precision still reigns supreme. Just goes to show, old tricks in new cloaks. It's truly timeless.
Absolutely. It's like mixing the wisdom of a chess grandmaster with the flair of a magician. These art thieves masterfully demonstrate that marrying the old with the new creates an edge that technology alone can't provide. In espionage, whether slipping a bug into a lamp or slipping information past sensors, there's an elegance in simplicity. It cuts through the noise. Our high-tech world overflows with data. But cunning, the human factor, that's the secret sauce spies have feasted on throughout history. So when we speak of the art of espionage, it's that blend, the timeless dance of mind games woven with whatever shiny tools our era offers. That's where the masterful stories of intrigue and daring heists are born.
Agreed, the dance of wits and tech is enthralling. The art of espionage will always draw its power from human ingenuity. No gadget could ever match a sharp mind's subtleties. So what next-level spy antics could unfold in this ever-evolving dance?
You know, Joe, speaking of human ingenuity, it's hilarious how sometimes that cleverness leads to tactics that seem straight out of a comedy show. I'm talking about those insane methods that make you go, no way they tried that. Like spies thinking, sure, let's do a wig swap mid-chase, or talk through a shoe phone and nobody will bat an eye. I mean, can you imagine us trying to pull off something that outlandish?
Honestly, Simon, those wig swaps, they were more than just comic relief. You've got to admit, there's a genius in their absurdity, like a disguise within a disguise. But sure, let's see who'd notice if we tried swapping our headphones mid-show and pretended nothing happened. As for dead drops, imagine us hiding secret messages inside pizza boxes delivered to the studio, code pepperoni for an urgent meeting, maybe extra cheese if it's a full-blown podcast emergency.
Oh man, this takes me back. So there's this time my crew and I hit up a costume party, right? We deck out, full spy gear, from fake mustaches to the whole trench coat look, going for that golden era espionage vibe. Halfway through, just for kicks, we decide to swap disguises in the bathroom, like literally exchange all our gear. Emerging with new identities, the plan is to mingle without anyone catching on. And the kicker? I'm left with a mop head wig, far too big, slipping off my head every 5 seconds. Everyone knew instantly. The poorly attached stash, bargain bin wigs, it was a hilarious disaster. Proves a simple point. A smooth operation isn't about ridiculous props or gimmicks. It's about the sleight of hand, blending seamlessly. When we go absurd, we end up as walking punchlines instead of smooth operatives.
Ha! Talk about a spy fail. It's the suave tradecraft that counts, not just the cool trench coat. Let's keep our day jobs and leave the wardrobe malfunctions for comedy night, huh?
For sure, mate. Can you imagine if real spies had as much trouble with their wardrobe as I did? Hold on, enemy agent. I just gotta fix my wig. Talk about compromising your cover. The self-destructing message is peanuts compared to the self-unraveling disguise.
A world-class spy fumbling with a wonky wig. Perfect distraction, if you ask me. Enemies doubled over in laughter while our spy nonchalantly plants a bug or swipes a dossier. Maybe the silliness was genius misdirection, Simon? Or imagine pulling off a dead drop by stashing intel in a bobblehead. Could be the last place they'd look.
Haha. Well, you just reminded me of a time when my nephew thought he was the slickest little spy on Earth. He had this whole secret agent birthday party, complete with laser tripwires made of yarn. The crown jewel of his plan? Handing off his presents in the most over-the-top ways possible. Little guy gets his younger sister to covertly pass him gifts using a series of hilariously conspicuous techniques. Think passing a toy while hiding behind a tiny napkin. When it came time for the big one, he tries this grand distraction, a magic trick that ended with everyone covered in confetti. Now, imagine grown spies doing something similar with important stuff, like using bobbleheads. Makes you wonder if sometimes the silliest methods are so unexpected, they're brilliant. If adults did what my nephew pulled off, I'd say we're onto something with your misdirection theory.
Outlandish as a confetti cover-up, but hey, spies take note. The best moves might just come from a kid's birthday party playbook. Unexpected and whimsical can be surprisingly effective.
Well, the art of deception in the spy game often takes a cue from children's imagination. The goal is to go unnoticed or misdirect attention. And what's more unassuming than a toy? History's even on our side with this one. During the Cold War, operatives used dead drops disguised as rocks or logs. Fast forward, they're likely using everyday items, digital age camouflage. Speaking of swappable wigs, remembering that spies would use tricks like the rabbit trick, where an agent doubles back in a crowd to slip off a tail, follows the same basic principle of magician's sleight of hand. It's all about audience management. You direct their gaze one way, while the real action unfolds elsewhere. These aren't just random stabs in the dark, they're honed tactics perfected over time. The whimsical methods we mock might be iterations or natural extensions of these tested strategies, tailored perfectly for their moment in history. If it sounds absurd but works, then it ain't absurd. It's spycraft. And who says you can't have a bit of fun while you're at it, right?
Ah, the good old rabbit trick. But let's not kid ourselves. In today's world of facial recognition and AI, that crowd trick would flop faster than a magician's cheap card shuffle. Sure, it's classic, but spies now have to layer their game like never before. And as for toys as tools of the trade, their kids play until someone logs onto that Wi-Fi enabled teddy bear. The real absurdity is thinking old hat tricks can keep up with modern surveillance. The gadgetry might get inspired by the whims of history, but spycraft today needs a new kind of ridiculous. So futuristic and out there, it circles back to being undetectable. Just imagine a drone disguised as a cloud, or better yet, a cyber attack camouflaged in a meme. That's the kind of creativity we need, not confetti distractions.
You're spot on, Joe. Picture this. Our predecessors probably never dreamed of drones disguised as clouds or spyware in memes. It's almost poetic, modern spycraft mingling with abstract art. Keeping up with the times isn't just about swapping old tricks for new ones. It's radically rethinking the game. Spies don't need to toss confetti. They need to become the magician who convinces you the confetti was never even there. That's the level of mind-bending ingenuity we're talking about. A true sleight of tech that leaves us wondering if we witnessed anything at all.
It's a technological vanishing act, the ultimate bluff. Spies these days must be more Houdini than 007, making data disappear and reappear without us ever knowing the magic happened. How about this for a twist? What if we're all part of the act without realizing it? Every like, every share could be a move on the digital chessboard. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Absolutely, Joe. Our entire online presence might just be the new era of cloak and dagger. We interact with devices and platforms every day, blind to the machinations ticking along just out of sight. All that tech is shaping history, not so different from the quiet work done by countless unnamed agents in the past. Which reminds me, when we think about playing key roles behind the scenes, there's no end to unsung heroes throughout history, right? Take these forgotten spies who've nudged the course of events without fanfare or fame. I'm talking about those figures from way back when, who did more than their fair share but got none of the credit. Makes you realize how nuanced our narratives are.
I've got a story that fits the bill, Simon. Back in university, I was part of a study group, pretty tight-knit team. We had this one member, let's call her the archivist. She wasn't the loudest or most noticeable person there, always in the background. But get this, she was the linchpin. Without fanfare, she compiled all our research, streamlined it, made connections we missed. When our project notched top marks, the plaudits went to the flashier presenters. It didn't seem fair because, without the archivist, none of it would have happened. It's like those unsung spies throughout history. Without the spotlight, without recognition, they shifted the tides of entire wars, shaped politics, yet their stories gathered dust in the shadows. Sometimes the real movers are ones we never hear about. Their quiet heroism is what truly fascinates me.
I hear you on the archivist, Joe, and it's painfully true. But let's rattle the cage a bit here. What if we don't know these hidden figures because, honestly, their stories lack that Hollywood glitz? I mean, it takes a James Bond to sell a movie ticket, not an accountant spy who crunches numbers to crack codes. Sure, it ain't fair, but dazzle often trumps diligence in the memory books. Now, think about those sneaky heroes from yesteryears. We've got women like Agent 355 from the American Revolution. Her real name lost to time, her story overshadowed by her flashier male counterparts. And let's not even get started on the racial or political sidelining that some of the most instrumental spies faced. It's easier for history to focus on a single champion than weave a tapestry of many uncelebrated players, each crucial to the saga. So yeah, those unseen efforts are what stoke the flames of curiosity for me. Unsung heroism speaks volumes about quiet strength, resilience, and the intricate web of lives influencing towering events from the shadows.
Definitely a tough truth to swallow, and it's got me thinking, our fascination with the lone wolf hero might just rob us of richer, more honest history. The untold tales of collective triumph, like those from Unsung Spies, aren't just missing pieces. They're entire chapters ripped out. Unearthing their stories isn't just about giving credit, It's about reconstructing a past that truly reflects all its players. Now, what if we dug into why these heroes tend to stay in the shadows? Is it the spy game's demand for eternal secrecy? Or is there something more to the narrative?
You hit the nail, Joe. Maybe there's a kind of hidden magnetism to these gaps in our history books. It teases out our curiosity, right? We're drawn to the secrets and the silent movers because deep down, we all love solving mysteries. It's why puzzles are a thing. But unmasking these unsung spies, it's like walking through a hall of mirrors with a flashlight. We only see who they were when the light hits just right. Could be due part hush-hush spy code, part society being a bit choosy with its memory. It's one puzzle I reckon we should try to piece together, though. Those names not echoed in history's halls deserved their stories told.
Spot on with the mystery love, Simon. And if we're lucky enough to shine that flashlight and catch a glimpse, it might just reflect a whole new angle on history, one where the silent strategists finally step into the spotlight they've always deserved. What other overlooked masterminds might be hiding in plain sight?
Funny you should mention masterminds hiding in plain sight, Joe. Reminds me of my grandma. Not your typical cloak and dagger type, but she might as well have been a codebreaker with how she handled her legendary recipe for blueberry pie. Every family gathering, we'd all attack that pie like hungry wolves, never knowing what made it out of this world good. Always humble and with a wink, Grandma kept her secret ingredient under wraps. It became the stuff of family legend. Everyone wanted to crack the code. Now, years later, I find an old cookbook in her attic. Etched notes in the margins reveal that secret touch, just a hint of cardamom. So simple, but it changed everything about how we remembered those meals. It brought her quiet genius to light. Feels kind of similar to digging up the story of a clandestine hero, doesn't it? You uncover that one little detail, and suddenly, there's this whole new appreciation for the craft behind the scenes. Makes you wonder about the stories lurking in our everyday lives, the secrets waiting to be discovered, giving credit to those we overlooked.
Grandma is a domestic codebreaker. I love it. But let's churn the waters here, Simon. Grandma's pie is one thing. Spies that change the course of history are another league entirely. Makes me consider why these hidden figures are so intriguing. Is it because we see a bit of ourselves in them? Most folks aren't headline news but play supporting roles in their own epic story. We're not all stars on the big stage, but we crave a slice of recognition just the same. Perhaps the true brilliance of these unsung heroes isn't just in their actions, but in the universal longing they represent, a desire to be seen and acknowledged. In unearthing their legends, we validate the value of the everyday person making their mark quietly. It's not about being the flashy hero. It's the silent contributions that keep the world turning.
Joe, you're stirring up some deep waters. The reason we're drawn to these stories is exactly what you said. They mirror the overlooked contributions most of us make in our lives. And man, do we have examples aplenty. Take someone like Virginia Hall, an American spy with a wooden leg, nicknamed the Limping Lady by the Nazis, who just couldn't catch her. She worked for both the British Special Operations Executive and the American Office of Strategic Services during World War II, and was instrumental in supporting the French resistance. Or look at James Armistead Lafayette, an enslaved African American who played a key role as a double agent during the American Revolution. He provided crucial intelligence to the Continental Army while feigning loyalty to the British. And let's not forget Noor Inayat Khan, a radio operator for the UK in Nazi-occupied France, posthumously awarded the George Cross for her bravery. Despite being captured and executed, she never gave up any secrets. These folks changed history from the background. It's not always about the public cheers. It's about making ripples that turn into waves, even if no one sees the stone's first splash. Each story echoes something grander, the impact one person can have when duty calls without expectation of fame.
Right, like a shadow slipping through the grasp of time, these amazing folks are way more badass than fiction ever dreamed up. It's high time we give them a shout out. Unsung heroes deserve some overdue limelight.
No kidding, Joe. After all, sometimes reality outshines fiction. An accountant with a secret ledger can be cooler than any debonair agent in a tux. Now let's shift gears a bit to something that makes my brain itch, the moral side of spy games today. We've got tech in our pockets that James Bond couldn't even fathom, and yet, here we are, walking the tightrope between safety and privacy every single day.
It is a tightrope walk, balancing the scales between what we need for security and what we give up in privacy. And tech's making this dance even trickier. We're all basically carrying a potential intelligence goldmine in our pockets with smartphones. Then you've got whistleblowers chucking spanners in the works. Think Snowden, Manning. They pull back the curtain. Suddenly, it's not just spies wrestling with Moors, but everyday folks too. It does raise a hefty question. How far do these agents, or even us as a society, go before it's one step over the line?
For those of you just joining in, welcome to the deep end. We've been diving into the murky waters of modern spying ethics. Picture this. Our phones are like tiny troves of secrets, and we're all jugglers trying not to drop them. Now toss in a couple of whistleblowers into the mix, revealing the backstage dance between what's right and what's secure. How far can we push that spy envelope before it tears? It's all about finding that sweet spot where security doesn't mean saying sayonara to our personal freedoms. We're tackling the tough questions about technology, privacy, and where we draw that moral line in the digital sand.
So, Simon, where do you think we should draw that line between private citizen rights and the need for national security?
Whoa, Joe, drawing lines and shifting sands, that's an art form in itself. But let's flip the script for kicks. What if our right to privacy always takes the back seat? Say we prioritize national security over personal secrets because, well, it might be a bit controversial, but without strong intelligence work, there'd be bigger fish to fry than ad companies knowing what shoes you like. The field's a minefield of what-ifs. But I reckon collecting data is like insurance. No one loves paying premiums until the day disaster strikes, and suddenly it's a lifesaver. The caveats? Transparency about how data is used and concrete oversight to prevent abuse. Without those, well, definitely opening Pandora's box.
That's a slick comparison with insurance, Simon. But let's lace this up with a bit more context. Take the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, made up of the USA, UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. These countries share intelligence on a global scale, and their capabilities to surveil both foreign threats and citizens have multiplied thanks to advances in technology, sparking debates over mass surveillance versus targeted operations. Consider, too, advancements in AI and machine learning. Governments can now process vast amounts of data for patterns possibly linked to criminal or terrorist activity. The concern is when these algorithms grab and analyze personal information of innocent people without their consent. Meanwhile, ethical conundrums splinter off from cyber warfare tactics, like infecting an enemy's infrastructure with malware, which can have devastating real-world consequences. The main squeeze here: where does proactive protection cross into privacy invasion? And how do we handle the fallout when espionage tools fall into shady hands or are turned inward on a nation's own citizens? Oversight, legislation, and public debate need to catch up fast to this tech-amped world of spy games.
Man, Joe, with all this high-tech surveillance jazz, makes me miss the good old days when data mining meant digging through a dumpster for your ex's love letters and not some AI combing your browser history for your secret taco obsession. Siri, find me a love life. Oops, I meant directions to Taco Bell.
Dumpster diving for love letters might have been some low-tech sleuthing back in the day, but you've got it. Now, everyone's a target in their digital dumpsters. And that taco obsession? Not so secret when algorithms predict your craving before you even feel the rumble. That blunder with Siri? A classic example of our complacency, really. We casually trade privacy for convenience, eavesdropping devices in our kitchens as long as they can play the newest tunes or order pizza without lifting a finger. Doesn't mean we want Big Brother holding the other end of our smart device leash, though. Need I say more? The modern espionage game is centered around data, plenty of tacos and secrets to go around, but at what cost to autonomy and trust?
Well, Joe, speaking of tacos and trust, I just can't shake this image of an agent hunched over a computer, chuckling as he sends out taco truck locations to play with the unsuspecting masses. Could you imagine? Operation Taco Takeover, the most delicious diversion in espionage history.
Operation Taco Takeover, huh? Sure, Simon, that's one way to win hearts and minds. Feed 'em well, and their secrets spill easier than salsa on a white shirt. But let's hit the brakes here. That hypothetical taco-wielding agent is laughable until it isn't. See, that dude doling out tacos at the whims of his keyboard? He's not all that different from someone pulling strings with our data. Whimsical when we picture street food, not so quaint when you're talking manipulating voters, swinging economies, or crafting deepfakes. That's territory ripe for an episode of Black Mirror. Agents waving the banner of national security while arm deep in your digital life? Maybe not super ethical. We've witnessed enough eyebrow-raising acts by governments in recent headlines to know the moral gray area is spreading wider than ever. It includes citizens now, not just spies. We've got tech in our hands capable of steering a drone or leaking state secrets. It's power, accessible to many, monitored by few. Now there's a modern moral maze heavy on the spy sauce.
Joe, you've painted quite a picture there with the high stakes of mass data control. But here's the twist. Where do you think individuals can fit in this new age spy narrative? Are we just digital pawns, or is there room for us to be knights in this cyber chess game?
Digital pawns? Maybe some days, but I'd say we've got more knight potential than we give ourselves credit for. We vote, we speak up, we choose what to share online. It's not perfect, but there's personal agency in digital literacy, knowing how to secure our data and realizing the weight of our clicks and keystrokes. We also support or denounce policies and companies based on their privacy practices, pushing that moral compass where we think it should head. Each user adds a build block to the digital fortress that protects or crumbles the collective privacy. So yeah, we're definitely more than pawns if we play our cards right. Privacy isn't just an espionage issue, it's a societal checkpoint, reflections of individual choices scaling up. It starts with you, me, and hey, every listener out there. It's our modern-day challenge. Stay sharp, stay aware, and use that digital savvy like a knight's strategic move on the cyber chessboard.
Absolutely, Joe. The idea that our actions, big or small, can safeguard our digital kingdom is powerful stuff. We're all part of this intricate web, and it takes some serious navigation to keep from tangling up in issues of privacy and ethics. It's a conversation with no end in sight, ripe with questions about power, control, and the invisible lines we draw. As the tech evolves, so does the dilemma, kind of like updating your privacy settings, but on a global scale. What will they think of next, right?
You know, Simon, this whole dance around privacy and data, it echoes an earlier time. I'm talking World War II level echoes. Back then, it was all about cipher secrets with the Enigma machine. Breaking that code, now that was a real game changer. And hey, since we're diving into historic tech here, let's unravel that classic tale of Cloak and Dagger meets Nerd Paradise, Bletchley Park. Mathematicians like Alan Turing brought their brains to the war effort by cracking what seemed uncrackable. The stakes? Only the course of the entire war. It's fascinating how the principles from those cipher-breaking days are still woven into our modern encryption techniques. Who knew that one day the groundwork laid by those codebreakers would become foundational in securing digital communications in our pocket-sized supercomputers? Mind-blowing, right?
Absolutely wild to think about, Joe. So when we're talking about Turing and the Enigma, do you think his work gets the credit it deserves in the grand tapestry of World War II stories, or is it still kind of an unsung triumph shrouded in mystery?
Turing's role in cracking Enigma certainly has legions of fans in our tech-centric world, but I'd argue there's a chunk of the populace to whom this epic tale remains obscure. The spotlight often shines brighter on traditional warfare, the blitzkriegs, the battleships, the beaches of Normandy. Turing and his band of math magicians at Bletchley Park, they served in silence, cloaked by the Official Secrets Act, with their victories buried in classified files for decades. So despite recent recognition, films, books, heck, even Queen Elizabeth II pardoning Turing, it's not quite the mainstream World War II yarn. And we can't forget, Simon, this isn't just about one man. There was a whole ensemble at Bletchley, one deserving more than the odd footnote or brief cameo in history's hefty volumes. Their strategic breakthroughs may have cut the war short by years, saving countless lives, yet it doesn't get equal billing as the more visible acts of valor. That's why storytelling matters. To draw out these threads from the shadows and weave them into the broader narrative fabric for everyone to see.
It's like this, Joe. Turing and his crew were real-life superheroes with chalkboards instead of capes. Think about it. Every coded message they cracked was a potential bullet dodged or battle swayed. But here's the kicker. They did it all using brains over brawn, in a hush-hush hut that could have passed for a dull old schoolhouse. Their code breaking was as pivotal as any tank charge or aerial dogfight, yet how many war flicks have you seen with a mathematician as the lead? The math squad's heroic logic leapt off the page, shaping our very world. Yet their saga is still kind of like the nerdy kid at the history class dance, epic, but not asked to boogie as much. It's high time we groove to that rhythm a bit more, don't you think?
Hey, latecomers. You're tuning into our deep dive on one of history's most thrilling covert ops, when math nerds became war heroes. We've been chatting about the Enigma machine, a tricky cipher device the Nazis used during World War II to send secret messages. Enter Alan Turing and his brainy pals at Bletchley Park, who didn't just crack the code, they revolutionized intelligence warfare, all with chalk dust flying off their sleeves. Their mission? Use smarts to dismantle the Enigma's web of secrets, all while staying under the radar, doing the kind of heavy mental lifting that could turn the tide of battlefields far from their quiet English hut. These folks weren't your typical wartime figures, but they were pivotal in outmaneuvering the Axis powers without firing a shot. So while you might be more familiar with tanks and dogfights, remember, it was also chalkboards and slide rules that helped win the war. Keep that image in your mind. The stealthy warriors wielding numbers as weapons. Pretty rad, right?
Absolutely epic, Joe. And just to twist the dial of intrigue, it's like every number they crunched was like picking a lock in a race against time, with the fate of nations hanging by a mathematical thread. Makes you wonder, if a chalkboard could whisper, what tales of espionage would it tell?
So true, Simon. Their chalkboards were more than just slate. They were the silent witnesses to a clandestine battle waged with brains and bravery. If those boards could talk, can you imagine the secrets they'd spill? How do you think today's tech, brimming with computational might, reshapes that kind of historic endeavor? Would Turing be in awe, or just nodding along, expecting no less from his legacy?
Turing would totally be the latter, nodding along with a knowing grin. Just think, at Bletchley Park, it was all about pushing the limits of what they had. Fast forward to today, and their foundational work has unraveled into this wild web of tech wonders. Our smartphones alone have more crunch power than any machine in Turing's time. Just shows you how those first steps on uncharted paths can lead humanity to places once scribbled in the margins of science fiction.
Absolutely. Turing's legacy is a testament to human ingenuity. Those initial strides created pathways to our digital era. Amazing how those code-breaking origins springboarded us into today's tech-savvy society. Our pocket devices are like descendants of Turing's dreams.
Reminds me of my granddad, who was a real tinkerer. He used to fix old tube radios just for kicks. This one time, I found this dusty box in his attic with gadgets that looked like they'd come straight out of a spy movie. He showed me how he could pick up signals we didn't know were buzzing around us, kind of like those wartime code breakers tuning into hidden messages. Now, here I am with my phone, feeling like a modern-day descendant, carrying on the tradition, minus the dust and spiders. Just goes to show, some things change, but the human drive to unlock the mysteries around us, that's as timeless as it gets.
True, Simon. The thrill of unraveling mystery is timeless. But here's another angle. Maybe it's not always about the pursuit of hidden knowledge. Sometimes it's fine to leave some frequencies uncaptured, some messages undeciphered. A bit of mystique in a world oversaturated with info can be refreshing. There's value in preserving secrets too, right? Consider that while Turing's work was crucial during war, too much transparency at the wrong time can lead to vulnerabilities. In the age where privacy is eroding, maybe there's wisdom in those old radios and their enigmatic whispers. Not everything needs to be decoded. Sometimes the magic lies in the unknown, or at least in knowing when not to listen.
So, Joe, what you're getting at is this idea of a sort of digital mystique, am I right? Do you think that in our current everything is accessible world, we're losing the art of savoring the mysterious, the not knowing? And how do we balance the craving to uncover it all with the need for some good old-fashioned secret keeping?
Definitely, Simon. As much as we tend to unravel every digital thread, a bit of mystery keeps things interesting. The unknown challenges us. It drives innovation. With too much laid bare, we lose that push. Turing was about uncovering secrets, but even he knew the value of discretion. Remaining in awe of the undiscovered could actually be what propels us toward the next big revelation. There's still so much to explore when it comes to the winding narrative of code breaking, from how it shaped our past to where it will take our future.
It's a tightrope walk, all right? Speaking of which, like Turing and his team piecing together the Enigma puzzle, it leads me to think about other notorious codes out there. Take the Zodiac Killer, for instance. This dude didn't just go on a scary spree, he sent ciphers that have kept codebreakers scratching their heads for decades. Some of these cryptic puzzles remain a conundrum despite today's tech. It's the ultimate mind game between the creator and those trying to crack it. Makes you wonder, is it really possible to craft a code so devious it becomes almost unearth-proof?
The Zodiac Killer's ciphers are a dark twist on Turing's legacy. With only one fully solved, the rest mock us with their secrets. Their creator vanished like smoke. It fascinates and frustrates. Why, with all our tech, can't we solve them? Are they gibberish or genius? They may hide something sinister or nothing at all. It's this uncertainty that gnaws at us. Can you see why some armchair sleuths might lose sleep over this kind of high-stakes brain teaser?
Oh, I get it. It's the ultimate challenge, the Zodiac's taunting us from beyond. Our tech's impressive, but some puzzles are like trying to nail jelly to a wall, unbelievably tricky and kind of a mess.
Absolutely, Simon. It's like these unsolved messages are the jelly, elusive and resistant to being pinned down. But don't you think there's also a psychological angle here? Why do you reckon someone would create such an intricate puzzle? Is it for notoriety, or maybe the thrill of outsmarting the public and law enforcement?
You'd think with all our modern gizmos and know-how, Zodiac's scribbles would be old news. Yet here we are. It's maddening. Dude could be cackling in ghost form, watching us fumble. Could the ciphers just be well-crafted hooey to send us on a wild goose chase? Part of me thinks it's less about the thrill for the Zodiac and more about proving a point, like he's puppeteering from the shadows, making us dance decades later. Pretty twisted, right?
Definitely twisted, Simon. You know, if the Zodiac were around today, he'd probably be that guy online trolling cryptographers with emoji codes and then ghosting everybody when they start to figure it out. The ultimate read at 9:05 p.m., no reply scenario.
Big time, Joe. Modern Zodiac would be the king of leaving us on scene. That typing bubble would haunt our dreams.
You know, this reminds me of something. Back in college, our professor threw us a curveball, told us to write code that could auto-generate ciphers. This one kid in class, let's call him Mike, made an algorithm so convoluted it spat out codes no one could crack. Not even the prof with decades of experience. We all stared at these printouts like they were alien hieroglyphs. Fast forward to finals, and we're all sweating bullets until Mike reveals his genius. Had a flaw. He couldn't solve them himself for the presentation. Talk about ghosting your own party. It was a mess, but taught us an important lesson. Creating chaos is easy. Finding meaning within it, that's the real trick.
Guess Mike was a bit of a mini Zodiac in training, huh? Except, sounds like he got so tangled up in his own web, he forgot the escape route. It's one thing to serve up a brainbuster, it's another to lock yourself out of your own party. But hey, that's the beauty with ciphers. Some egghead always comes along thinking they've built the better mousetrap, until the mouse fires up a chainsaw and says, "Think again, buddy." Same deal with Zodiac. Maybe the reason we can't crack his last secrets is because there's a piece missing, something that we're all just not seeing. It's like staring at one of those magic eye pictures and everyone claims they see the hidden image, but you're squinting, tilting your head, feeling like the joke's on you.
Absolutely, Simon. The Zodiac basically left us a real-life magic eye with his ciphers. Here's the deal. People used everything from basic decryption techniques to complex algorithms. We know he sent 4 main ciphers, and only 2 have been substantially cracked. This isn't kid stuff. FBI, amateur sleuths, cryptologists all banging their heads against the wall. And it gets juicier. The one cipher that got fully solved, it didn't even help catch him. So here we are, with these tantalizing breadcrumbs he scattered, but half of them led nowhere. And let's not gloss over the ingenuity. Some of his symbols were from a medieval code called the Z408. The guy knew his history, layered with his own twisted creativity. Nowadays, everyone's leaning into AI for answers, but that missing magic eye might be staring us in the face, an angle or solution no one's tried yet. Considering your previous message, maybe the answer lies not just in the codes themselves, but in understanding the man behind them. And that's where the road goes cold.
Sometimes it feels like the Zodiac's ultimate cipher is his own identity. Crack that, and maybe all the other pieces fall into place.
So, do you reckon knowing the Zodiac's identity is the linchpin here? Could finding out who was behind those ciphers really make everything else click into place?
Sure, knowing our ghost might be handy, but let's not kid ourselves. Even if we dug up who Mr. Zodiac was, that alone won't crack the code. It's like saying, oh, if I knew Shakespeare personally, I'd totally get all his plays. Not buying it. The ciphers are their own beast. They're going to need more than just a name. They need that special sauce, that one-of-a-kind brain twist. Understanding his motive could give us a new angle, sure, but until we can think like him, we might as well be trying to read spaghetti.
That's spot on. Even if we got Zodiac's name, let's call him Ted or whatever, that doesn't suddenly translate his madness into plain English. It's like you need to be on the same weird frequency as this guy, which, let's be real, who wants that? The mindset behind it is unique, man. We're not just decoding words, we're trying to decode a person's entire way of thinking. And with someone like Zodiac, that's a deep dive into some murky waters.
That's right, Joe. Decoding Zodiac is like trying to listen to a radio station with constant static. You catch glimpses of clarity, but mainly it's just noise. And we're over here messing with the dial, when in reality, what we need is an entirely new radio, one that's tuned to, as you said, the same twisted frequency as Ted. It's about cracking the mind behind the ciphers as much as the ciphers themselves. Without that, we might be left clutching at straws, and I'm pretty sure nobody can build a straw house strong enough to withstand Zodiac-level gales.
For sure, Simon. We keep fiddling with that old radio, hoping to catch Zodiac's twisted broadcast clearly just once. But you're right. Without tuning into his mental wavelength, we're stuck in the static, forever squinting at cryptic letters and symbols as if they're about to pop out any second. What do you all think would be a starting point for cracking such a disturbed mindset without going around the bend ourselves?
You know, all this cipher talk has me thinking about another mysterious code that's been baffling brains out there. Kryptos, right in the CIA's backyard. That sculpture might not have Zodiac's grim backstory, but it sure is a puzzle masterclass. It's like the artist, Jim Sanborn, just decided to drive folks up the wall with intrigue. 3 parts cracked and 1 still laughing at us. Got any wild theories, folks? Bonus points for conspiracy-level creativity. Send us your zaniest ideas.
Oh, Kryptos, a monument to the unknown slap-bang in the world's spook central. Maybe that unsolved part is just a cafeteria menu for CIA agents. Imagine cracking it and all you get is Tuesday's taco special.
Wouldn't that be something, Joe? After all the brainpower spent on it, if Kryptos just dishes out lunch specials, I'd honestly love that level of epic trolling. But really, Sanborn's probably up to something more than just teasing hungry agents. The solved bits got us thinking about hidden treasures and the deep past, so who knows? Maybe the last part reveals where all the lost socks from the laundry end up, a question just as burning as national security, if you ask me.
While a national lost sock repository is an amusing thought, Simon, let's consider that Kryptos might actually hold something weightier. Sanborn collaborated with a retired CIA cryptographer to create it, so it's definitely not your average Sunday crossword. The piece is layered with historical and archaeological references, which suggest a larger narrative. What if the unsolved section unravels something about intelligence history or methods, strategically yet to be disclosed? Valid when you think of the setting, secrets are currency at the CIA.
You're on to something, Joe. But considering its home turf, I bet the last part of Kryptos is just the world's most elaborate no trespassing sign. And all these years, people have been noodling over it like there's some profound truth hidden inside. CIA agents probably walk by, giggling into their coffees every morning as they watch puzzled visitors muse over it. Hey, Bob, think someone will crack the menu code today? Nah, Jim, they're too busy looking for Atlantis in the break room.
So you're suggesting the big reveal is really just everyday stuff in a spy's trench coat? Could be, Simon. But what do you think Sanborn was aiming for? Leaving this puzzle for the world, with the final part sitting undeciphered for decades. A practical joke, or maybe an invitation to look beyond the obvious.
I think Sanborn was playing the long game, Joe. It's like he's dangling a golden carrot in front of every codebreaker and says, "Go on, take a bite." This guy knew what he was doing, stoking curiosity, drawing us into this ongoing dialogue between art and mystery. And here we are decades later, still scratching our heads over Kryptos, while Sanborn's probably kicked back in a recliner, chuckling as each new generation tries to decipher his masterwork. It's the ultimate brain teaser tucked in a suit and tie world, a reminder that even in the shadows of espionage, human curiosity is the real MVP.
Sanborn is a clever one, capturing our imagination like that. It's genius, making the quest for knowledge an art form in itself, with brains as brushes and curiosity the canvas.
Sure, brains and brushes, but let's not slap on the paint too thick. What if Sanborn's just messing with us, right? Like setting up the world's most intellectual prank. Every cryptographer's nightmare, a joke they can't crack. Because think about it, folks. If you had the chance to plant a forever riddle at CIA HQ, wouldn't you be tempted to make it a wild goose chase? Maybe the real art here is watching everyone trip over themselves for answers that aren't there. So listeners, do you think Kryptos is a profound riddle or just the longest gotcha in history?
You've got a point. Imagine the mischief of it all, crafting this sculpted enigma only to have it lead to a colossal gotcha. It'd be epic, the kind of prank that would get funnier with each passing year. The dedication to keep a straight face through decades. Sanborn's either the most patient artist or the best poker player ever. Either way, you gotta respect the commitment to keeping the world on its toes.
Absolutely, Joe. Whether it's a sophisticated riddle, a timeless prank, or something totally unexpected, Sanborn's Kryptos sculpture keeps us guessing and the conversation flowing. It's a testament to human curiosity and our relentless pursuit of answers, whatever they may be. And hey, who knows when or how the final part will unfold. But until then, the speculation keeps the intrigue alive and gives everyone a personal stake in the puzzle. What secret message would you hide in plain sight? Let's hear those ideas, listeners.
Kryptos isn't the only linguistic enigma out there. Our obsession with codes actually taps into a deeper curiosity about ancient scripts and lost languages. Think of Linear A, that stubborn script of the Minoans. So much history locked away because we can't read their code. It makes you wonder what secrets they left behind. Now, flicking through the pages of history, when does a set of symbols become a language and not just a code? And how do we tread the line ethically, trying to decode an entire culture's language without projecting our own narratives onto it? If we ever crack these ancient scripts, imagine the vaults of forgotten knowledge we'd unlock, reshaping our view of human progress.
Totally, but let's flip it for a second. Imagine if ancient scripts like Linear A are meant to remain mysteries. What if our modern brains just aren't wired to truly grasp their context anymore? Decoding something like Linear A could turn out to be more misleading than enlightening, conjuring up false histories from misinterpreted texts. If we force-fit these puzzles into our worldview, we risk losing the real narrative and belittling the civilization's true essence. Some knowledge, after steeping for millennia in mystery, might just be beyond our reach, for better or worse.
I see your point there, Simon. But let's get real. Humanity's drive to know and understand is relentless. Yes, our interpretations could be skewed. We might never fully get the Minoans through linear A. However, it's about the quest, isn't it? Peeling back layers of time through their inscriptions adds a depth to our understanding, or, at least, our appreciation for history's intricacies. Missteps are part of learning. Without trying to unlock these languages, we default to ignorance. Better to risk being wrong and learn than never to seek at all.
Sure, Joe, there's nobility in the quest. But let's park the Indiana Jones hat for a moment and consider the possibility that we're not cracking codes so much as telling ourselves a story we want to hear. It's like every lost script isn't just a language, it's a time machine, or so we hope. We yearn to believe that excavating these ancient texts will unlock some cosmic library of Alexandria-type brain bomb. Are we really learning history, or just constructing a fiction that fits our own era's storyline? Maybe some scripts are ripe for discovery, while others, like a wild beast, are best left in the wild unknown.
Can't argue with that. It's a mix of heartache and humility, realizing we may never fully grasp these ancient tongues. There's something poetic about the undisturbed mystery, the sacred, untouched knowledge that these lost scripts represent, like stars whose light we can see but never reach. Our struggle to decode them speaks volumes about our desire to connect with our roots. Yet sometimes you have to respect the mystique that time has wrapped around them. It's a hauntingly beautiful thought. Not all history is ours to know.
Yeah, think about it. The deciphering of the Rosetta Stone, unlocking Egyptian hieroglyphs after centuries of silence, was monumental. But there's more. Take Linear B, a script we actually managed to decrypt, revealing loads about Mycenaean civilization. Now, compare that to its older cousin Linear A, still a puzzle, which keeps the Minoan civilization sort of veiled from us. And if we switch gears to the New World, Voynich manuscript, anyone? This book's got drawings of unknown plants mixed with zodiac signs and other bizarre symbols. No one knows what it means, but it doesn't stop us from trying. The question lingers. How do lost languages hold up against the window of our current understanding? Can we ever truly reflect their embedded knowledge without our own era's bias? Sure, we've had breakthroughs like Linear B, but they're exceptions in the vast library of history, where many chapters are likely to remain unopened. And in that space, the gap between the known and the unknowable, lies the real magic and mystery of our past.
You're sparking the fire here, Simon. This reminds me of that time I visited an old European cathedral on a trip abroad. The walls were etched with inscriptions worn down by time. No guidebook, no translations available. Just these beautiful cryptic markings left by stonemasons long gone. As I stood there, I felt this profound connection to the past, despite not understanding a word. It struck me that the value in these lost languages isn't solely in the decoding, but in the dialogue they start and the humility they teach us, acknowledging that some things might forever lie just beyond our grasp. These inscriptions told a powerful story, not through their words, but through the silence of centuries' worth of unanswered questions they fostered in every visitor, including me.
That's touching, Joe, but hang on. Isn't part of that humbling silence a bit frustrating? Here you have these ancient whispers etched in stone, begging to spill their secrets, and we're just nodding along pretending it's okay not to understand? Isn't there a bit of defeat wrapped up in that humility? Picture this. You're at a party, and everyone's speaking in code. Sure, you can enjoy the canapés and nod to the beat, but don't you want to crack that code so you can join the conversation? It's human nature to want to be in the know, even more when it comes to our own history. These old inscriptions aren't just puzzles, they're invitations. Are we going to RSVP with a yes, or just stand outside listening to the dance music from history's best party? Now, finding a way in, that's the real adventure. Not all history is ours to know, sure, but you better believe I'm going to try my darndest to get on that guest list. What about you folks? Are you content to sip on the mystery, or are you gate-crashing the past with me? Let's hear those stories.
And with that fiery call to action, we wrap up for today. Huge thanks to all our listeners. Your curiosity fuels our wild ride through history's locked doors. Remember to join us back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern, Who knows what ancient mystery or modern marvel we'll be diving into next? Stay curious and keep the conversation alive. Until then, take care, folks.
And just when we thought our passwords were as solid as a bank vault, here comes quantum computing, zipping right through them like they're made of Swiss cheese.